This is the Podium Podcast. Podium Podcast. With your host, Anthony.
Thank you so much, though, for taking some time out of your day and being able to be here and be my first guest on this podcast.
My pleasure.
What's the name of that dog you got there?
That's Kaiju. The smallest dog we have. He's a little 8-pound Chihuahua. So, kind of like calling a big football player tiny. We decided to name him Kaiju because he's got the biggest personality. So,
let's go. What are your other dogs?
We have 2 Pomskis and a rat terrier.
Oh, nice. So, you've gone by many names in your career. You've gone by Butler Greaves, Chris Malice originally for Pure Pro Wrestling. Obviously Gideon Malice right now, but I think one that people don't really know about is Big Insurance from the 2024 Super Bowl commercial.
Correct.
Could you walk me through how did that whole process go of you getting that opportunity?
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. My trainer, Truth Martini, reached out to me, said that he had been in contact with a lawyer, law firm that had contacted him, and they were looking to do a Super Bowl commercial. They do one annually, and it was always apparently a different theme. Like the year before, they had done a take on. Do you remember the movie Spaceballs?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
The reason being is because the law firm, the lawyer's last name is Schwartz.
Oh,
and so may the Schwartz be with you, whatever. So they did a really funny take on the on that movie. But anyways, so Truth reached out to me, just said that the shoot was looking for a big guy to portray Big Insurance, because they do their law firm specializes in that kind of fighting the big insurance companies. It was really awesome. Went out, we shot for the whole day, and of course, funny thing was I got dressed like Jake from State Farm, so that was hilarious. But yeah, really good experience. It aired just before halftime, or during halftime, I guess. But what did they say? It was a regional commercial. The law office was actually out of the Mississippi area. I don't know exactly what the area was that it encompassed, but so it aired down there, in that region. It wasn't seen, like up here in Michigan or whatnot, save for, the few of us that were part of it, and we shared it. But still, a really fun, and cool experience.
Yeah. I'm guessing that meant a lot to you to be able to, be a part of that. And especially for such a prestige event like the Super Bowl, being able to have your face right there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, national coverage would have been sweet, but regional coverage, I'll take it.
Oh yeah.
and just, the experience, the film crew was awesome. I got, was working with, a couple of, other local guys, Chris McGinnis, he was the body double for, the attorney, Brian Gorey, was the referee. Getting to work with, a couple other guys, from the area, that I don't necessarily get to see on a normal occasion, just with all the travels and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really fun.
Oh, yeah. All right. So to just change things up a little bit,
Sure.
focus more on your in-ring career. So recently you were the CIW heavyweight champion. And for 1,030 days, how was that? Just how did that come about, and how does it make you feel to be registered as the longest reigning CIW heavyweight champion?
I mean, I love it. Championship International Wrestling was, I've been with that company, doing work with them for, 15 years. Phil Nitro Monahan, one of my best friends, at this time in the business, he's like a brother to me now. You know, it was really funny because when he and I first met, it was on a show, and I was actually booked in a four-way ladder match, and he was one of the other participants in the match, and you know, we just had, you know, that natural chemistry together in the ring and stuff, and then it just kind of went from there, you know, outside of the ring, you know, just hanging out and you know whatnot, and you know, I love working for Championship International Wrestling. You know, it's a wonderful product. You know, a great locker room, great people. So yeah, I very, very proud moment, you know, for me, you know, being able to represent, you know, that company, you know, for so long, as their heavyweight champion. And then to have the program that I had with, you know, Michael Elgin, you know, was phenomenal.
And while we're on the topic of Phil Monahan, how was it
Yeah.
like being the Legion with him, and also having Paul Bearer as your guys'
Oh,
centerpiece?
that was outstanding. You know, Legion. You know, if unfortunately, you know, Phil, he got COVID and he got it really bad. In fact, you know, he almost passed away from it. He had gotten transferred um to a third. He was in one hospital, got transferred to a second. They were about to transfer him to his third, and they actually had his priest come in and read last rites because they didn't think he was going to make it. Um, you know, and unfortunately, he's got that long haul. You know, so he's still having complications. And he's not ready. Or up to, you know, being back in the ring. But you know, the years that I competed as Legion, you know, the second to none. You know, at one point, you know, we were carrying, you know, uh, tag belts for, you know, like five or six different companies at one time. You know, we carried titles for the NWA. You know, did a whole lot of traveling. You know, which is, I mean, that's part of the best part of, you know, professional wrestling is, you know, the road trips and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, Phil feels like a brother to me, and Legion, you know, will always be, you know, probably like the one of the pinnacles of, you know, if you want to call it, my career.
Yeah. And speaking of that, what would you say is your favorite like storyline that you had with Legion? Like, who was your favorite competitor that you've had to face with them?
We had a lot of really good, you know, storylines and matches with they were called the Thoroughbreds. It was
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Orion and Chris Corvus at the time. You know, we traveled, you know, all over, fought all over, you know, state to state, you know, with those guys. And you know, Corvus, he's not a competitor anymore, but you know, Aaron Orion, I mean, he just went on to, you know, skyrocket, you know, on the Indies solo. But yeah, they were, you know, probably the one of the biggest, best, you know, rivalries that we had. You know, we had a lot of other opportunities, you know, for, you know, we had matches with the Headbangers, we had matches with Demolition, we had matches with the Powers of Pain. You know, so a lot of awesome opportunities, you know, for Legion. And you know, I'll always cherish it. You know, and I just happened to think because you'd asked me about, you know, being managed by Paul Bearer as well. And I mean, William was such an awesome guy. Um, just, I mean, you probably wouldn't think it to see everything that was, you know, like seeing him on TV and whatnot. Um, he was one funny guy. He was hilarious, and you know, just a joy to be around, you know, in the locker room and travel with, whatnot. And you know, God rest his soul. You know, he was an amazing individual, and I'm blessed to have been, you know, a part of, you know, his time in professional wrestling.
Do you happen to have like a key moment, like inside or outside the ring, just being around that group and obviously always traveling with them? Just a key moment that really sticks in your mind when you think about it?
Boy, let's see. I think there was one really good one. We were doing photos. It was me, Phil, Paul, and Kevin Thorne, and you know, we were just doing, you know, photos in the ring, with fans and whatnot, and just doing a lot of different crazy kind of poses. Thorne laid down on the mat, and had kids standing on him, and Phil and I were letting kids hold us in headlocks and whatnot, and just cutting it up. Again, the whole time, Paul's being just Paul. And just cutting jokes and trying to, get everybody, when we're trying to, keep straight face, he's trying to get us to, break kayfabe and whatnot. So that was really good. And then another one was, we were just doing promo picks, and I mean, this pick has gone around a bit. You might have even seen it, but here we are taking serious pictures. It's again me, Phil, Paul, and Kevin Thorne. And Paul and I are standing in the middle, kind of facing each other. And unbeknownst to me, we do this one picture, and later on when I see the picture, he's like acting like he's licking my chest, and I had no idea. I mean, I've got this straight face on and whatnot, this mean mug and whatever, and then the photographer flips his camera around and shows me, and I lose it. That was just the kind of guy he was. Just always. Lightening the mood and keeping things fun.
How often would you say he tried to get you guys to break kayfabe?
Oh, like I would say all the time, but it was kind of normal, like Phil and I did that, but when the three of us were together and standing in the ring, before the match or whatnot, I mean, we're just we're cracking jokes with the ref, we're poking fun at the the team that was against us. I remember one really funny one. Now I'm trying to remember his name. He does kind of an Abdullah the Butcher gimmick, Beast, and A.T. Huck was the ref, and Phil and I are standing there, of course, mean mugging, and all of a sudden, A.T. Huck comes over, and my man's changes his voice and everything, and looks at Beast, and he's like, does the hey Fat Albert thing, and Huck and I are just like, trying to keep from laughing and whatnot. So yeah, just it was an ongoing occurrence, and you just never know when or what was gonna pop out of anybody's mouth at any given time.
All right. So obviously, as you mentioned, you spent time in the NWA.
Yes.
How would you say like that experience like really helped you? Because you were relatively early on in your career, if I'm not mistaken, when you went there for a relatively long time. Yeah.
It was relatively early on. Like I said, Phil and I held tag straps for them. I also held the Eastern States Championship simultaneously at the time that Monahan was holding the national title. Yeah, I mean, and this was under not the regime that's there right now. It was Chris Wanquilla and Bruce Thorpe. And I mean, a couple of really good guys. I mean, they had their visions of what they were looking for. I was so very, very proud, to be a part of it, very happy to be a part of it. I grew up watching NWA. I mean, that NWA was some of the first wrestling that I watched, as a young kid. So being a part of it, on top of just the humbling factor of being part of professional wrestling at all, but being able to be a part of the NWA was exciting and humbling at the same time.
And yeah, you've held like what was it? Pretty much every title you could almost in the NWA during your time there.
Let's see. Well, no, because I, like I said, Phil and I had tag straps. I had the Eastern States Championship. Those were the main belts that we had for the NWA, that we held for them. But I mean, simultaneously, we held other singles belts and other tag belts, from other promotions as well.
Yeah. And so I kind of want to just take a look at how you are now with you're a trainer for Pure Pro Wrestling right now.
Mhm.
And how does it feel just being able to work with those like people that are just getting their foot in the business and being able to teach them the ins and outs about it?
Oh, I love it. Just being, being able to give back, to professional wrestling, just a sport that I, truly, truly love and believe in. It's an awesome opportunity. Like you already mentioned, I guest coach, at Pure Pro. I also do some training, guest coaching, for Championship International Wrestling. And I also still go out on occasion, it's called Grind Time now. But formerly the House of Truth with Truth Martini, I'll go out, especially I like to go out during the practice matches and work matches with the young kids. But I mean, any opportunity that I have to potentially give back to this sport, whether it be doing a seminar, whether it be going and doing a guest coaching, whether it be just talking to a young person, in the locker room. I'm always about trying to help people, and help them achieve what their goals are, help make them better, and help their learning process keep going, because professional wrestling, you never stop learning. I try and learn something new still to this day. Every show that I'm on, every training session that we do, whether it be big or small, I always try to pick up, just a little tidbit of, something that, maybe I didn't know, or, hey, that would be a really cool tweak for, whatever it is. But yeah, it's awesome and humbling again at the same time, to be able to help the up and coming, generation.
Yeah. Has there been any like students where you just like look at them and kind of just know they've got the it factor?
Oh yeah. Karam Alam, he's going by Zeke, I think it is now. I mean, the first day that I met him, I mean, he built like a brick house, and good kid, good head on his shoulders. I was like, yeah, he gets it. Trying to think, some other young ones, right now, Midwest Misfits, it's a tag team out of Pure Pro Wrestling. And they're odd combination. I guess for lack of a better way to put it, Ramirez, he's 6 foot whatever, and then you got Malvado, excuse me, Malvado, and he's like 5'1". But I mean, the thing in the ring, their natural aptitude. I'm so impressed, with how far they've gone. In the short time that they've been there. Two Fly, another up and coming tag team, that's just really getting it. And then the Global Flyer Drake, an amazing, amazing young man. It's incredible every time I watch him in the ring. I'm just like, wow. I mean, this kid has got to get somewhere, because he's a hard worker. He puts his time in. But on top of that, I mean, he's naturally gifted. He's got that natural charisma, and then also to that natural athleticism. And I would not hesitate to say that he will be somewhere sometime fairly soon.
Funny you mentioned the Midwest Misfits. I'm actually in talks right now to get Chris Malvado on the show.
Oh,
So,
great.
Yeah.
Great dude, man. Love that guy.
So you talked a little earlier about your talks with your matches with both the Headbangers and Demolition.
Mhm.
For such like prestigious tag teams, how did it feel to be able to be in the share a ring with them and have a match with them?
Again, humbling. To have these, I mean, at very, various stages of age. Obviously, in my life, I watch these guys, on TV, and to whatever degree, quote unquote idolized. Demolition, coupled with obviously I had watched the Road Warriors for a long time before, ever seeing Demolition. But, I mean, once Demolition hit too, it was like, okay, yeah, these guys are, and being able to share the ring, with two, legendary guys, just an amazing feeling. Again, real down to earth, so easy to work with, and it was really cool too because Nitro, for a time during his, before he and I had met and formed Legion, he had done independent tours and stuff like that with Bill Eadie, as part of Demolition. So that was a cool thing too, because I mean in Phil's like little museum room, if you want to call it, he's got his Demolition gear, the black leather with all the spikes and the executioner's hood and everything. And so that was a really cool experience too, because knowing that Phil had partnered with these guys, at various TV tapings, and independent events and stuff like that. That was really cool as well, so.
Awesome. So you've been both a singles competitor and tag team competitor. You've talked so heavily about your tag team, how much you've loved it. I feel like this question's a little self-explanatory, but I want to know, did you prefer being a singles competitor or a tag team competitor throughout your career?
um that's a difficult one because for different reasons I like both. I like both things. I like um the flow and the psychology of tag team wrestling, and that was really I guess what you would call a specialty for Phil. So it was an awesome experience, to be able to learn stuff from him. And it made it so fun and exciting, because I mean Legion, it was a really cool you know part of our career. The gimmick was, I mean, kind of a little bit loosely, pulled from, a little bit of Road Warriors, a little bit of Demolition. We had some face paint, um and it was just always fun. I mean, two big guys, just getting in there and chucking other guys around. That's kind of a funny story. I think one of the funnest ones was a very new Trey Miguel, and his partner at the time. They were called Skin and Bones, and I want to say that it might have been like their second match or whatever. And Phil and I are just having a ball, and they were too. I mean, we were definitely putting on the show. I mean, we were working outside the ring. I know we tipped them upside down in garbage cans, and there was one point where we both grabbed Miguel under the armpit, and we basically beeled him from one corner, to the other. I mean, he just, soared. So it was just a lot of fun, in that aspect too. And then to watch, Trey go on to, what he's doing is phenomenal, because that's another amazing, young man right there. And very proud to see, what he's been able to accomplish. And aspire to.
How does it feel, being able to see those younger talents that, like you said, it was like your only first, second match, see them go on to like be in some of the main companies, like show up on TNA or NXT or even AEW? How does that feel?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really cool, and that's one of the, I mean, part of, I guess it's the same coin, because, it's like, it's wrestling has been exciting to me because I've gotten to work with guys that I watched on TV, when I was younger, as they were coming, I guess, kind of off of their, big portion of their career. But then on the flip side, I was in matches with younger guys that are now have moved on, and they moved up. Rohit Raju. I mean, I had I loved working with Use. He's a phenomenal talent. He went on to TNA and whatnot. Like I said, Trey Miguel. amongst others. But yeah, really exciting to see it from both sides, seeing idols that I had, as they're coming off, but then also too now people that I go like, oh my gosh, look at that dude. I wrestled him, when it was a second match and now he's on TV. So yeah, really cool.
Awesome. And so, in terms of wrestling, you're getting a little up there in age, but you are not slowing down at all. Your wrestling style, I feel, has, I've been looking back at some of your matches. They're still amazing to watch. I personally love watching your matches whenever I like see them, especially when I've been like studying for this interview. They were all really, really good, especially the one with Rohit Raju, like you were talking. Every
Oh,
time
in
you
Bank
guys,
City.
oh yeah, every
Yeah.
time it's like just magic whenever you guys are in
Thank
there.
you.
But how much longer do you think you have in your in-ring career left in you?
When I started, I originally said, well, if and I don't know if I should, who cares? I said, if I get to 50, I'll be cool, and I can be done. And then 50 rolled around and I'm like, well, I'm still feeling really good. I'm still looking good. I can still, do it. And, so I'm like, okay, well, we'll see what happens when we make it to 55. And just at the beginning of this month, on the 6th, I turned 54. So I'm drawn in on it, but so far I haven't seen any, real signs of slowing down. I'm still able to, compete, at a high level. My mental capacity is still there, and my body, hasn't given out on me. So, I guess we'll just kind of wait and see. I've always said, I don't want to hold on, too long. Um, you know, and uh, and I guess be the guy that's just trying to still be there. But one of the things that I look at now is that especially is that I'm not necessarily there at all for me. The fans still enjoy my matches, and they're number one priority. But the other thing too is that I feel like I still have a lot to offer in working with younger talent, as they're coming in. And I think it's always important that, like younger talent be able to have matches with guys that have been around for a while, because, that's going to help up their game, and help them in their process. And again, anytime that I can give back, and help somebody in that, that's very important to me. So, being able to compete still in the ring, yeah, I would say that that's a big portion of it too, is, just being able to help, get the newer talent over, and, get some eyes focused on them, in whatever way, the match, needs it. But I think that's kind of partially my place now.
Oh, yeah, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
So when you look at well, brain just went out there for a second. Uh so when you look at post wrestling career,
Mhm.
would you consider going into just like training, just like a full-time training role, or just, kind of taking a step back from the wrestling world and, just taking a little break?
I don't know that I would ever, I don't necessarily know that I would do a full-time training. It is something that, my wife and I have, talked about, that it would be, that it might be, cool to do that. I definitely think that I would continue, doing, seminars and guest coaching, at the very least. I guess it would kind of partially depend on what area we end up in. Because we're in Michigan right now, and there's a few good schools, here in Michigan, and I'm not looking to step on any toes of friends and colleagues, that I have in the business. They're doing well with their schools, and so if I can help them out, I'm happy to do that. But given the circumstances right now, I wouldn't try to open up another school, in this area, because, then it's just, creating more, um, not that competition's bad, but there's already enough to go around, right now for everybody. And again, I would never be looking to, step on anybody's toes, simply to, hey, I've got a wrestling school.
So one of the final questions, because we are actually running out of time here.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Yeah. So when growing up, who was that like wrestler that you like really just was like, yeah, that's my guy, you know?
Magnum TA.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was, I think like everybody, I mean, they you look at him and being cut short by that accident and whatnot. I mean, he was on the verge of, a lot of big things. I always, appreciated, and liked, the character that he had. I thought his promos were good. I enjoyed watching him in the ring. And yeah, I wish that that the opportunity had been there, for him to reach a higher pinnacle. But that's not what the plan was, apparently. And who am I to question that? But yeah, I really loved him. And then a couple others, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, some other really, really great talents that, I paid a lot of attention to, as a young person, but then also too, later on, as I'm, developing myself. So.
Well, thank you so much for, taking a little time out of your day and being able to spend it here. And again, thank you so much for being the first interview that I have conducted on here.
It's been an honor and a pleasure.
We got to do this again sometime, maybe in person,
Yeah, that would be great. I would love that.
All right. Thank you so much.
Have a good
one.
one.
You too.
Thank you. All right.